Susan Gillies' topic and her book is entitled Empowering Laity, Engaging Leaders, Tapping the Root for Ministry. And we also welcome Ingrid DeVernack, who's here somewhere, right behind me, who's the co-author of this book. Thanks for being here, Ingrid. And also, Ingrid is the somewhat new editor of The Secret Place, and we appreciate her partnership and ministry on that publication. Susan Gillies spent more than 20 years in leadership positions with American Baptist Churches USA, including directing the Ministry of the Laity in the Workplace program for National Ministries, now the American Baptist Home Mission Society. And then she served as the executive minister of American Baptist Churches of Nebraska. Now retired, she is a public speaker, columnist, consultant, and silversmith in her hometown of Omaha, Nebraska. Susan will address us on how to cultivate lay leadership, including recruiting and sustaining leaders in their ministry. She'll also explore matching gifts and interests to organizational needs and how to overcome the obstacles along the way. Susan, come and talk to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see familiar faces. And if you can't hear, wave or move closer, okay? If you ever have the occasion to drive between Omaha, Nebraska and Lincoln, Nebraska on Interstate 80, you will see this chapel on the hill on the east side of the highway. Now, you may not be thinking you want to drive on I-80 between sorry. Anyway, you may not think Nebraska is the most exciting place to travel, but it is. And sometimes just wanting to get somewhere, you may end up here. But you'll see this chapel. And at first I didn't know what it was. Timber frame building with these beautiful glass walls. Isn't it amazing kind of architecture sitting on the hill over here? And if you go by at dusk and the lights come on in there, it's really amazing. You want to go and take a look at this thing. Well, if you get off the road and you go to explore, you find out it's some kind of independent Catholic retreat place, Holy Family Shrine it's called. But it's the building that just fascinates me. And you go up and you find the visitor center, which is separate from the chapel building itself. And it's earth bermed, you know, the dirt over the top of it, because it's a wonderful building. And right here in the center, there's a pencil-thin stream of water that comes straight down to this pool on the floor. And I'll move around occasionally so people over there can see it too. But there's this stream of water. It just comes straight out of the ceiling, and it comes right down like this into this pool on the floor. Very, very impressive. And then you notice that the water is heading out the door. The water goes from this pool and it goes right on out the door. After it splashes down, it leaves the building. There it is, going through this little trough all the way down the sidewalk to the chapel. This is amazing, and it's fascinating. The water just keeps moving right along, and it's just, it's moving. The water's moving, and it moves you as you watch it. If you turn around, you can see back to the visitor center, and you see this channel for the water going along. When you go into the chapel, the water runs right along the side under the pews, right up to the chancel. Very, very impressive. I recommend it to you to go sometime and see it. Now, I only have one problem with this building. The water's going the wrong way. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, because it's easy to get your directions confused. Sometimes there are directions in front of you, if I can get this, there it goes, and you can't figure out where you're supposed to go. So directions can be confusing. But when we're talking about the church, the sanctuary where we worship God, the door is open and we want to go out more than come in. There's a world out there. It speaks to me of one of my favorite passages of Scripture in Ezekiel. Ezekiel has a vision. And in that vision, He's taken to the door of the sanctuary, and the water is gushing out over the threshold. And he's taken to another door, and the water's going out on this side, and then it's going out on that side. The water's coming out every direction from this sanctuary. And the water is flowing out into the desert. And in the desert, it's making things grow. It starts to nourish the arid desert. And things grow up on both sides. The trees, their crops, their all these things that come up. And pretty soon even the birds of the, if I can get it, yeah, even the birds. In case you didn't know, this is the Sandhills cranes in Nebraska, if you want to go check them out. But that's what Ezekiel's vision is about, this water coming out of the sanctuary and enriching the land. The flow from the sanctuary is outward. We are in the business of sending a river of love out the doors of our sanctuaries into the desert of contemporary life, bringing new life, new hope, new energy into the world. That's who we are as Christians. That's supposed to be blank, don't worry. I have two concerns as to why the river isn't flowing the way we'd like to see it flow. The first is a theory which you might want to debate, and that is that there's a disproportionate number of wounded persons in the church today. The church is a wonderful place to come to if you're beat up, wounded in some way, hurting. And the church wraps its love around you and restores you. But if you get addicted to that woundedness, let the church just take care of me and I don't want to do anything. Or if we get a disproportionate number of wounded people all at the same time, the church can't be the dynamic, outpouring source of love. And so I think the church has got to be about the business of healing. We've got to find a way to help these people heal so they can get on their feet, to help transport this love. The other question I would raise is there enough love in the church to water the desert? Is there enough love in the church to get over the threshold and get out? Obviously, the Holy Family Shrine is talking about the fact that we're all drawn to worship, drawn to the sanctuary. We need to go there to be refilled, re-energized, but our job is to go out. We need to look out and get out. And that's what will make the transforming difference in the world. We've got to see that there's a world out there to which we have a responsibility. The world is thirsty, and we have the water. Thank you. Yes, you may applaud. Now, I think we're supposed to let them ask questions, right? So, any questions, observations, or reactions? None at all. I can tell you the story of my life. The book that Ingrid, oh yeah, Bill, come and ask in the microphone.
But isn't the church kind of like airplanes? You have to have an equal number of landings and takeoffs. How can you keep going out if you don't come in?
No, think of it as something kind of explodes. Like, you know those little fireworks jobs that are like a little thing like this, and you light it and it turns into this big long worm? It's a seed. You come in to be fed, but a little feeding, and you can be much more productive. I know you're an engineer, so you want to see where that energy goes, but I really believe that in the right, a congregation with the right health and energizing, motivating preaching and teaching, people will go out and make bigger results than one would have guessed from what's happening inside. The book that Ingrid and I did, which I hope you'll read if you haven't, talks about all kinds of, it's kind of like a church help book. You've heard of self-help books. This is a church help book. And it's not a profound literary work. It is ideas, because we're all in the business of experimenting to make a difference and to bring about the results we want.